Hey everyone, it's Mafalda and these are my April favorites. So I almost forgot to do this video because I was just super busy and I haven't filmed anything in the past couple of weeks, and I just remembered that I didn't film my April favorites, so that's what I'm here to do. So for the first time in a few months, I don't even know when was the last time I did a music favorites, but this month I finally started listening to music again because I had stopped listening to new music. And so this month I have 3 music favorites to talk about. The first one is Olivia Rodrigo's new single called Deja Vu. I don't know how she did it, but she somehow topped Driver's License. Like, Deja Vu is, to me, is even better than Driver's License somehow. I just love the indie pop vibes in that song, and the music video is great, and it's so good. I don't know how she did it, and it's everything I wanted and more because Miss Olivia just keeps serving. I don't know how, but she does. So that's my first music favorite. I think it was in the beginning of April when she released that song, and wow, just amazing. Then my second music favorite, I think, is everyone's music favorite of April, and it's Fearless, Taylor's version that was released in April. And oh my god, as well, Fearless was the album that introduced me to Taylor Swift way back when, and oh my god, it just made me resurface all of my middle school moments listening to White Horse and Forever and Always, because those are my 2 favorites, by the way. When I started listening to the album, especially when it hit 15, that song just made me cry, because listening to Taylor now as a 30-year-old woman singing that song about her being 15 is just so, I don't know, like, it's not even sad, but it's just like gratifying to see how much she's grown. And from the new songs that came with the album, from the Vault songs, my favorites are definitely Mr. Perfectly Fine, because all songs about Joe Jonas are great masterpieces. Like, Forever and Always is always going to be my favorite song off of Fearless, and that song is also about Joe Jonas. And Mr. Perfectly Fine, I don't know how it didn't make the final cut of the album because it's just such a good song. But then I also really like the song with Keith Urban, which is really weird. I saw Keith Urban in the album and I was like, I'm not gonna like that song, but then it's kind of a good song, so props to them. So yeah, no more normal Fearless in this house. We only listen to Taylor's version because of reasons, and also because it's just so perfected, I guess. Like, the album was already good, but I feel like she perfected some things, and wow, it's just great. I love it. And like I said, Fearless holds a very special place in my heart because it was my introduction to Taylor Swift, so it was just so great to see the new revamped version. And now the next music favorite is also by Miss Taylor Swift, because like, my story with Taylor Swift is very simple. So basically, I listened to Fearless, I loved it. I listened to Speak Now, I was obsessed with it. Like, Speak Now is my Taylor Swift album, you know? Then I listened to Red, but after a little while I stopped listening to Taylor Swift because I was an alternative hoe in high school, and I was like, I can't listen to pop stuff. Like, I just didn't like pop music for a while, so I kind of fell off the Taylor Swift boat, and I didn't listen to 1989, I didn't listen to Reputation, I didn't listen to Lover. But then when she released Folklore last year, I just loved the album, and I loved Evermore even more when she released it. And I guess I'm coming back to the Taylor Swift gang. That's what I'm saying. And like I said, I still haven't listened to a lot of her old albums because I just wasn't listening to her music at the time when she released them. So this month, in April, last month, I listened to Lover for the first time, and oh my god, it's so underrated. That album is so underrated. I thought I wasn't going to like the album because these singles off of that album are literally the worst songs in the album. Like, I don't know how she picked Me as a single. I guess it was because of Brendan Urie, but that song is just terrible. I'm sorry, but the rest of the album, wow. I literally love the whole album, and I actually started listening to it because Casey told me that one of the songs off the album reminds her of me, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to the album now. And I absolutely love it. Cruel Summer, Afterglow, Paper Rings, all great songs. I am so in love with that album, honestly, and I am excited to listen to her other work that I haven't listened to yet, because maybe I'll find some gems like I did with Lover. So that was definitely a favorite of April, but now I just need to listen to her other work because I still haven't listened to 1989 and Reputation. I think those are the only ones that I haven't listened to at all. Not calling myself a Swiftie yet, but I'm getting there, I'm getting there. And now before going on to movies, I just want to mention a quick favorite of the month of April because I got my 6th tattoo on my leg. I will insert a picture here, and I vlogged kind of the experience of getting that tattoo, and I've been meaning to get it since literally January, but tattoo shops closed and then they finally opened back in April, so I went to get my 6th tattoo. I'm so happy with it. I love getting flowers on my body. I would literally tattoo all of the flowers on my body if I could, and I just love how the tattoo turned out, so that's also a favorite from April. And now moving on to movies, which is something that I didn't watch a lot in April because I was busy reading. I will get to that, but I still have 2 movies that I would like to talk about. So the first movie that I want to talk about is Boy Erased, and this is based on a memoir with the same name by Garrett Connolly, and the movie is about the experience of Garrett Connolly growing up in a very religious family and also religious neighborhood, and then finding out he's gay and then getting sent to conversion therapy to fix his gayness. And this is a very harsh not only memoir, because I also read the memoir, but also a very harsh movie. It's even more violent and graphic in the movie about all the things that he went through in conversion therapy, but it's still such an eye-opener that these things are still happening in the United States and all around the world, and it's a really good movie. I honestly highly recommend it. It has Troye Sivan, which I really wasn't expecting. It was a nice surprise. And yeah, it's a really good movie if you want to learn more about conversion therapy. Read the book and also watch the movie because I learned a lot from it. And yeah, that was the first movie that I watched. And then the second movie that I wanted to talk about is Patterson. And I don't even know how to describe this movie because this movie is literally about a bus driver who is married to an artist and they have a dog, and it's about a week in their life. It's just a day-to-day life recount of this bus driver's life, and he's also a poet, and it's literally that. Like, the movie is as simple as that. It's just like following this guy around and seeing his life, and that's the beauty of the movie, I think. The movie is literally about being content with the simplicity of life, I guess, and I think it shows it perfectly. The performances are great by Adam Driver, and I just really enjoyed the movie, even though nothing happens, to be honest. It's just like following his life, and you're always waiting for something big to happen, and it kind of does at the end, but at the same time, it's just like following this guy's life, but it's so interesting, and it's about routines, and it's about enjoying life even in the little things, and it's just a great movie, and I honestly highly recommend anyone to watch this because I feel like anyone can appreciate this movie. So yeah, that was a great movie that I watched. And now moving on to books. So in April I had a great reading month because I already had a big TBR set for the month, but then I was just like, well, let me add this book and this book and this book, and turns out I finished the month reading 17 books. 17! Yes, you heard me correctly. I think I read 11 books physically and 6 audiobooks, and 11 books physically is a lot for a month. I don't know how I did it. I was just in a great reading month, and also I had set out my TBR to be larger than life, so I just also like kind of pushed myself to read more. And even though I read a lot, I feel like my readings weren't that brilliant. I had a lot of 3 stars, so that wasn't great, but I still have found a new favorite and found some great reads overall, so I'm here to talk about 5 of the 17 books that I read this month. So I guess first let's start with my new favorite book. I literally read this book in less than 24 hours because I couldn't stop. I sobbed at the end, and oh my god, I can't believe I hadn't read this book sooner. And it's Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring Blake. I think this was on my 5-star prediction video, and I was so right because this is a full 5-star for me. Like, this book is everything I wanted and more. Hard-hitting topics, LGBT characters, beautiful writing, and just like everything packed in a really concise and great book. I read it so quickly, I couldn't stop, and wow. Wow, I need to read more stuff by this author because I just love this one so much. And this book follows Mara and Owen, and they are twins and they're super close, but then one day Owen is accused of raping one of Mara's friends, and that puts Mara in a very complicated position because she doesn't know what to believe and who to believe in, because she wants to believe her brother, but at the same time everything is against him. And yeah, it's a very hard-hitting contemporary. The main character is bisexual, which I always appreciate. If you haven't read this book, please read it because it's such a great read. It brings up so many great and important discussions, and great 5 stars. Then the next one that I read and loved this month was Juliet Takes a Breath by Gabi Rivera. I was super excited to read this one because I already kind of knew that I was going to like it, and I gave this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. This book is set in the early 2000s, and it follows our main character Juliet, who has just gotten an internship with her favorite author of the book called Raging Flower: Empowering Your Pussy by Empowering Your Mind, who is a white feminist that she really enjoys. And at the same time, Juliet has also come out to her family as gay, and she's going through some stuff with the girl she likes. And this book is basically about feminism and intersectional feminism, which I think is also so important. Most of the cast is LGBTQ+, and I love that. I also love the setting of this book because it was set in the early 2000s, and I just feel like we don't get a lot of books set in that time. And yeah, I honestly overall really enjoyed this book. There were maybe some things like plot-wise that I would have taken out of the story because I feel like it happens so much in this book, and I love when books are a little bit more simple in terms of plot. But I still really enjoyed it. I love the discussions that this book brought up, and yeah, I highly recommend this one if you're looking for LGBT representation, a feminist read, a book about a plus-size character, just like you name it, this book has it, and I just really appreciated it. Now, the next book that I read and loved this month was Butterfly Yellow by Tanha Lay. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, I'm not really sure. This is a historical fiction YA book, and it is set after the Vietnam War, and it follows our main character Hank, who one day is separated from her brother at the airport after the Vietnam War because they were trying to get to America, but turns out they are separated and she never sees her brother again for a number of years. And then after 6 years, he decides to go back to the US and try to find her brother in Texas, I think. And yeah, this is a beautiful story. I listened to most of the book on audio, and I highly recommend the audiobook because there are a lot of things that are written in this book the way that the main character would speak in English, because she is Vietnamese and she doesn't speak English that well. So the things that she says in English are purposely spelled out wrong, I guess, for you to like understand that she doesn't speak English that well. But I think in the audiobook you understand a lot better what she's trying to say in English, because sometimes the writing is really weird in this book. But other than that, I really like the story. I initially picked up this book because it said that it was for fans of Elizabeth Acevedo, and I can definitely see why, because the writing in this book is so beautiful and poetic, and that was my favorite part of this book, was the writing. It was just so beautiful, like everything was quotable. But I also really like the cultural discussions in this book, and also the relationships between all of the characters. I feel like this is a very underrated YA book, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Now, the next book that I want to talk about is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I finally understand the hype of this book. This is everyone's favorite classic, and yeah, it's just a great piece of work. I can't believe Oscar Wilde didn't write any more books like this. I think he only wrote poetry other than this one. I just love when I get into a classic and I'm super nervous to read it because it's a classic and I'm always like, oh, I'm not gonna understand anything, but then it just doesn't feel like a classic. I felt that with all of my favorite classics like Little Women, and I also felt it with this one. It wasn't hard to get at all, and the writing was beautiful but also super modern, I guess. Like, if you told me that this book was written 10 years ago, I would have like been okay, yeah, sure. And I love when that happens with classics because it just comes to show how timeless this book is. And I already knew the story and I already knew what was going to happen because I have seen the Ben Barnes movie like a couple of years ago. So I already knew how the book ended, but it still surprised me so much. And I can definitely say that this is a new favorite classic for me. I give it 4 stars. And if you don't know, this book follows Dorian Gray, who is a beautiful but very corrupt man, and one day a portrait is made of him and he wants that portrait to basically capture his youngness and beauty but at the same time preserve it, and that becomes his horrible secret. And if you haven't read this one, which you probably have, I highly recommend that you read it because it's super short and it definitely packs a punch at the end. Like, the last line just left me staring at the wall for a number of minutes, and I can definitely say that this is a new favorite classic of mine. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And now my camera's flashing, so the last book that I wanted to talk about is Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour. After reading Watch Over Me in January, I was super curious to read more of Nina LaCour's books because I just loved her writing. And this one did not disappoint at all. And this book follows Maren, or Maren, not sure, but she has left her whole life behind a couple of months ago and she hasn't said anything to anyone, not even her best friend Mabel. But then Mabel goes to visit Maren at her university dorm for the winter break and things start to unravel and memories from the past start resurfacing, and she finally has to reconnect with her past and figure some things out. And first of all, I just want to say that this is the perfect book to read during the winter time and during Christmas because this book is set during Christmas, so I had no idea about that. If I knew, I would have read it around Christmas time, but oh well. This book was super beautiful. I think I liked this one more than Watch Over Me, to be honest. And I don't know, I just feel like Nina LaCour's writing is so distinct from anything I've ever read. It's just so mysterious. That's the word for Nina LaCour. She's mysterious. And I really appreciated this book, even though I kind of predicted what was going to happen and I wasn't really surprised by the twist in this book. But at the same time, I still really enjoyed it. I still want to read more stuff from Nina LaCour because I love her writing. It's just so beautiful and poetic. So yeah, I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. And that concludes my April favorites. My camera is flashing, so I need to go. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe down below if you haven't, and I will see you on my next one. Bye!